you do always femur first?
Yes, I started in December of 2012. After that Shakespeare paper was published, and I haven't stopped.
So, was there any difference in outcome comparing your tibia first technique with the femur first technique in terms of functional outcome, joint line alignment, or the overall alignment?
Yeah, so we did an extensive review of the tibia first versus the femur first, and we saw that our radiographic outliers were significantly decreased with the femur first technique. There's a little bit of bias there. Of course, the tibia first was earlier in my career from 2006 to 2012, and now from 2012 on I've been doing the femur first. So, I mean, you could have improvements just by experience. But if you look at the alignment, you could look at the tibial alignment, femoral alignment, coronal, sagittal, they were all improved with the femur first technique.
So if you do it now, if you do a tibia first now, will it make a difference?
I don't do tibia first now. And of course, I'm biased because this to me is the better technique, because especially for somebody and that's where Shakespeare and Waite had it correct. It's a technique that's very easy to adopt, especially if you don't do a lot of unicompartmental arthroplasty, because the femur, you can resurface it fairly easy, and then you build everything off, so you now have the building block to put your tibial component. You know where the vertical cut is going to be, you know where the depth of the tibial component is going to be, you've restored your joint line to the native joint line. The problem with if you cut the tibia first and you're too low, then you're going to bring the femur down, and now your joint line is valgus, right? If you cut too little, now you got to ream further to equalize that extension space. So I think that there are things that happen with uni, and most importantly, there is some data, some papers that have shown that an abnormal joint line for unis can lead to lateral progression of arthritis. So you may not see a failure now, but down the road, the most common failure mode is actually lateral compartment wear. And I think this is minimized by doing potentially appropriate restoration of the joint line.
Thank you.
Rafael.
That's one thing I think I can take back from your lecture. You probably start trying the femur first technique.
Yeah, Dhanshekar, I think I totally agree with. The reason is uni is an extension disease. So most of the conventional UKS, they do a tibia cut first. You're committed. Then you start building from the tibial joint line going up. So that's why all the robots, now you just surface match the femur, then you take the constant tibia what Vaidya showed. So I think that's valid thing you're doing here.
Rafael, so, classically in the Oxford technique, this particular technique is shown with a hanging leg position. And so that is for the tibia, so that the gravity actually pulls. Now, femur first, how do you do it? Is the hanging leg position or like a standard TKR position?
So I do it with a hanging leg position, because the reason why I use the hanging leg position is to relax the medial collateral ligament so that I can do the appropriate trialing. That being said, I would say that if you were to ask surgeons around the world how they do the Oxford today, only a few do the hanging leg technique. The majority of them do a standard supine position similar to a total knee, and they have somebody hold the leg up and then do the trialing that way. I think it's appropriate as well. The fact is, for when the UK ROSA comes out, it's probably going to be in the supine position. It won't be probably in the hanging leg.
Sure. Narendra, so you've been doing this unis for a very long time, the conventional one now with the robotic platform. Where do you think is the edge of the robot over the conventional in the long term, especially if you see the long-term results of unis?
I think consistency and reproducibility is a great thing in uni. It takes out the experience factor also out. And so all the unis, irrespective of your experience or whatever, you are getting everything there, nothing left to imagination. Secondly, the conventional thing, now his technique is slightly different. Now. I have not done that.
Correct.
But your first pin of tibial jig determines the fate of that surgery, is my opinion. If it errs slightly, then tibia may go once. All deformities can happen on the tibial side. And if you see the failures happen mainly on the tibia side, subsidence, fractures or whatever. So I think that completely removes all these problems, and you get a very consistent results. In fact, I had started doing unis early in career, stopped it for a decade or so. After robot now, it's almost, I think 15% of my practice is now unis.
So, this progression in the lateral compartment, that's the main worry for the unis, whether it's a mobile bearing or a fixed bearing. You think the robot is really helping
Yes.
us to undercorrect the deformity as we
Correct,
desire?
exactly. Absolutely, objectively, we can correct it to about 50%, like I mentioned. And so progression, I have not seen, at least, I have not published that data, but now since robot 2016, I think I am using it, so 10 years, I have not seen progression. I have revised some of them for subsidence or, very less in number of, fractures or something like that, but not progression to a great extent. Some symptoms of patellofemoral
Yes.
may come.
Correct. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know whether we're going to be completely eliminating the progression of the lateral compartment, because even in well-aligned unis that have been done with, robots or whatever navigation, you will see progression of the lateral side, because sometimes the patient already has some damage and you think that it's only medial compartment arthritis, but then they have lateral progression. Number one. Number two, I do think that, if you don't restore the joint line, there might still be that. And I don't know if, all the robotic systems take that into account. I mean, of course, it's easier to do, but maybe not everybody's doing it, because some surgeons, prefer to elevate the femur a little bit more in order to take less tibia, because that's what they're afraid of. So a lot of the systems say, if you're going to take more bone, take it off the femur and not off the tibia, which then changes the joint line a bit. So I do think that, yes, you need to know the technique. He's an expert in this. Of course, he's going to have good results, but I don't think we're going to eliminate all the lateral progressions or all the failures, because sometimes it's patient selection as well. We just simply choose the wrong patient who needs a uni.
Sure. Thank you.
Sir, my concern with your femur first technique is you are favoring femur over the tibia. My concern is for Indian osteoporotic bone. If you go down to a metaphyseal area, I feel that there will be more chances of loosening, where the bone quality and osteoporosis could be of a concern. What's your take on it?
Yeah, so that's a great point. So you will resurface the femur initially, and so you will be placing the femur in the same location of the native femur, right? So that's a goal. It's not like you're going to be bringing it down. You're going to put it in the same part. And then based on the patient should have a correctable varus deformity, and that means that you should be able to put the spoons to tension the ligament, and then put your tibia guide based on ligament tensioning. What that does is, if the patient has, ligaments are okay, then it's going to bring the tibial guide up so that you're not resecting too far down. So it's not a standard cut. It's based on ligament tensioning off the femoral component.
Yeah, Professor, there's one question for you. What is the upper limit of varus in your practice?
Yeah, so we don't see the same varus deformities that you do. I would say that 10 to 15 degrees is the upper limit for a medial unicompartmental. After that, we just see very stiff deformities that we can't correct. And with the mobile bearing, we want to have a correctable varus deformity that we can correct on a valgus stress x-ray.
So you depend on the valgus stress x-rays.
Yes, or a PA flexion view.
So because we use robot, we use the numbers from the screen. He wants to correct 50% deformity. But how do you judge that deformity corrected 50%?
How do I judge it?
Yeah.
Well, on X-ray, on fluoro?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I get a fluoroscopic image and so I look for two things when I do the stress x-ray. I make sure that the varus corrects and that the lateral joint space stays open, because if you put a valgus stress and you can see that the lateral joint space narrows, then you know that it's not. And also, if there's any subluxation, I want to see that tibia be able to correct underneath the femur. Those are the three things I look for on the x-ray.
Excuse me, sir, for the want of time, we might have to just
Thank you.
close
Thank
this
you.
session.